We all know fairy tales. We are familiar with figures such as Cinderella, Snow White, Little Red Riding Hood, Sleeping Beauty, or their German counterparts Aschenputtel, Schneewittchen, Rotkäppchen, or Dornröschen. Fairy tales or Märchen bring us back to our childhood. They are among the first stories we hear, or the first books we read, or we may have been introduced to them through films. In fact, today, many people might think that Walt Disney invented the fairy tale. But fairy tales existed, of course, long before Walt Disney brought them to the screen. The same tales exist in variations in many different cultures and languages, and it is impossible to pinpoint exactly where and when the genre started. The only thing that is certain is that stories or individual fairy tale motifs go back over hundreds, even thousands of years. There are some names that are particularly closely associated with the rise of the genre in modern times and are often mistaken for the actual authors and inventors of particular tales. In Germany, and in fact beyond, this applies most certainly to the brothers Grimm, who many see as the fathers of the Märchen. But the famous brothers were merely collectors of tales. Against the backdrop of a growing nationalism in the German lands in the early 1800s, Jakob and Wilhelm Grimm started to encourage well-educated bourgeois women from their home region of Hesse to share with them folk tales that they had listened to or read as children. They believed that through these orally transmitted tales, the authentic voice of the common German people found expression, and with it genuine German national culture and identity at a time when Germany did not yet exist as a political entity. Adaptation is the appropriation of a myth or a text for a new audience. The fact that fairy tales are usually not set in a particular time and place makes them an ideal source for adaptation. In this module, we will look at some of the most well-known tales from the Grimm's collection of Kinder- und Hausmärchen as both product and starting point for this process. After learning about the Grimms themselves and their historical background, students will compare versions of selected tales from other cultures with those of the Grimms. They will also analyze changes the Grimms themselves made between different editions of their texts as they adapted them ever more to a middle-class family audience. And we will look at the modifications and appropriations in later adaptations into different media, such as opera and the Disney films.